Hiya guys, how you doing? Nice to see you all. Friday morning, we've just been speaking to Eddie Howe. A fairly buoyant Eddie Howe, I have to say, ahead of the trip to Brentford tomorrow. I can't believe this next game's come around so quickly. It feels like the high of Liverpool is still hanging around, just that quick turnaround between games. Hopefully, Eddie Howe suggested today means that they'll bounce into that one tomorrow, but he has admitted to the fact that there's a lot of tired bodies and it sounds like he's going to have a few decisions to make in terms of his team selection. He said Tonali, Isak and Gordon were all either cramping up or tired after the match, and he says he'll have decisions to make, but I think that's an easy thing for him to say now, and I would be amazed if he makes too many changes from the team that performed so well in that draw against Liverpool the other night. And look, as we all know, Eddie does like to sort of throw a couple of team news suggestions out there that would probably keep his counterpart guessing. So I would be amazed if he changes too much, just due to how well Newcastle played in the game and how well they ran Liverpool, who are by far the best team in the league at the moment, how far they ran them close. But I thought what was quite interesting in today's press conference was something Eddie said on multiple occasions. Actually, he didn't just say it once, but he kept bringing up the mentality of the players and all about getting the mentality right moving forward. He said that when they turned up for the Liverpool game on Wednesday, he could sense from their body language, their preparation was right, their mentality was spot on, and then they went out and executed the game plan as well. And he said what our challenge is moving forward is to ensure that our mentality is spot on moving forward, which kind of leads you to think that perhaps Eddie has been frustrated, maybe confused like the rest of us, as to why Newcastle are beating the big teams, getting results against Liverpool, Chelsea in the Cup, Arsenal at home, Tottenham at home, Manchester City at home, and then losing to West Ham, to Brighton, to Fulham. There has to be a reason for that. And he used the word mentality a few times, which suggested to me that perhaps he's questioned if the players have been fully on it mentally for some of the matches this season, and you have to say it probably has looked like that. Now, why is that the case? Yes, he suggested previously that there's been a bit of a hangover from the summer because some of the players perhaps were unsettled due to the fact that they were mentioned with moves away from the club. But as far as I'm concerned, those things should have been parked early on in the season, and they should not be dragging on into November, December, where we are now. The players, and I've done a couple of videos on this in the past, need to make their football do the talking, and the players certainly did that on Wednesday against Liverpool. I thought the three star names, Isak, Bruno, Gordon, were excellent. Their numbers were great. Isak in terms of scoring and assisting, Bruno assisting a couple, Gordon scoring himself, should have scored another. And Tonali, who's probably just falls behind those three in terms of big name players. I think if he was playing every week, and I think if he was the main man, he probably would be probably the biggest player at the club in terms of how much Newcastle spent on him. But he just probably falls below those three in terms of his stature at the moment. But I thought he was excellent as well. And there has to come a time, and it should have been long before now, that any issues, any residue kicking around from the summer should have been parked by now, and everything should have been fully concentrated, both physically and mentally, on the season. So if Eddie is suggesting that they need to get the mentality where it was against Liverpool moving forward, that would suggest to me that perhaps he feels there's been a little bit of an issue with that. The fact that he used that word a number of times today, and it's something that he is trying to reinforce. So I thought that was quite interesting that he said that. It does feel a little bit like, and look, this is a great test this weekend against Brentford, because it does feel a bit like that the players are turning up for the bigger games more, and perhaps maybe not being quite on it for the Fulhams and the West Hams and the Brightons and whatever else. So this is a great test of that theory, and because it's Brentford, and Brentford are a great team at home, but they're mid-table on the same points as Newcastle, a team Newcastle should be beating both home and away. And, certainly the cup match in a couple of weeks probably feels like a bigger game than this one. So let's hope the players don't turn up more for that one than they do for the match tomorrow, because without doubt league games are huge at the moment, and if you can manage to string a couple of wins together, get yourself up the table, you could put yourself in a really, really strong position. That league at the moment, not only is it anyone's, those European places are anyone's as well. And if I was Eddie Howe, I'd be sitting there looking, right, we're 12th in the table, we're just a couple of points off of 5th. If we'd beaten West Ham and beaten Crystal Palace like we should have, we'd be probably up in the top 4 now. And that's the frustration, and that would have allowed for a couple of mistakes as well, which there has been against Fulham and Brighton. So it is frustrating. There's no excuse. There's no huge injury list. Yes, Sven Botman's missing, but there's no huge injury list. There's no European matches to contend with. There's no excuses now. And that performance against Liverpool showed me that there's no excuses. So when I left the match, I was in the car heading home with a couple of friends who are both Newcastle fans, and they were questioning why Newcastle are turning up in the big matches and not against the smaller ones, and that was their real bone of contention. And I think for anyone it's the same. I had my boss on the phone phoning me, asking me, he's actually a Liverpool fan, and he was saying to me today, why is it? He was asking me the question, and I said, well, I don't know the answer. I can only go from what I'm seeing, but certainly from the way Eddie was talking this morning, it suggested to me, and you kind of have to sort of read between the lines with Eddie and listen to his words, it kind of suggested to me that he believes there has been a bit of an issue with the attitude in certain games. The mentality, should I say, is the word he used, in certain games, and he needs the mentality of the Liverpool game consistently moving forward to take Newcastle to where he feels they should be. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and it was something that was glaringly obvious to me on Wednesday, was just how strong Newcastle's team are, well, certain parts of the team are when they're fully fit. You look at that midfield three that started, Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton, with Willock still to come on, and bearing in mind he's not fully fit at the moment, and you've got Longstaff there as well. But that starting three, for me, is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, in the Premier League. I would say probably Arsenal, arguably stronger, but certainly Liverpool, who are way clear at the top of the Premier League. I looked at their midfield three on Wednesday night. Curtis Jones, Alexis McAllister, and Ryan Gravenberch. Now, if I'm a neutral, I'm taking that Newcastle midfield three over that Liverpool midfield three every day of the week. I think probably McAllister would be in the top three, and probably two of the Newcastle lads. But you're not telling me that you would take Ryan Gravenberch before Tonali. You're not taking Curtis Jones before Bruno. And I just feel that Newcastle have got a lot bigger players, stronger players in bigger areas of the pitch than perhaps the results, for me, have reflected so far this season. And again, that is another frustration. I mean, of those six midfielders, I think Sandro Tonali walks into that Liverpool midfield in place of Ryan Gravenberch. And I think Bruno walks into that Liverpool midfield three ahead of Curtis Jones, who, by the way, scored a good goal and he's had a good season, but Bruno would bring more to the team. I think McAllister would be the only one of the three that would get in my midfield three of those six. And they're flying high at the top of the Premier League. So look, you look at their defence as well. Right back, yes, of course, Trent's the main man, but what have they got him back up? The young lad, Connor Bradley, who was injured, and then Quansah really struggled. You know, Newcastle had good options there in Livramento and Trippier, albeit the fact he's missed a lot of this season. And you look, they've got good strikers. Núñez, we've seen his skill before, we've seen what Diaz can do, but you give me any choice of a centre forward from what Liverpool have got and Newcastle have got, and I take Alexander Isak every time. They need to get that consistency. They need these players to be playing on the level that Liverpool are every week, because they are just as good as them, if not better. And yes, they're maybe not supplemented by that full strength of just that pure world-class quality throughout the Newcastle team, but neither are Liverpool. You know, they had Quansah playing at right back the other night. When I looked at their bench, they couldn't even fill their bench the other night. So I just think Newcastle should be delivering more than what they have been so far this season. And I think that some of the players, and I've said it a number of times now, really need to step up to the mark on a consistent basis. And it is very much like I preach this, but that has been an issue. Clearly the players haven't liked some of the criticism they've had. I mean, you could kind of see that from Anthony Gordon's goal celebration the other night. He's not happy that people have sort of reported or spoken about certain things. But he, I think, needs to realise it comes with the territory. If you're going to be a top-end player who performs every single week, you're going to get that level of criticism. It comes with the territory. And he needs to, in my opinion, that, goal celebration, the blah, blah, blah thing. I know it's like him, frustration coming out in the moment of euphoria, scoring the goal. But for me, I think he just needs to rise above that, rise above the criticism, the comments, and just get out there and do it week on week, and that'll prove you as a top level player. And he's not been at it at times this season. That was his first goal from open play for Newcastle this season, and yet he was torturing teams last season. So they need to get themselves back there if they want to play European football, if they want to win a trophy with Newcastle, if they want to in the future secure a move to what they deem to be a bigger club. They can only do that themselves. And look, there is going to be criticism along the way, but that's just something that they're going to have to accept and probably deal with it a bit better, because I don't know if you would see a Manchester City or a Liverpool player celebrating in that way. But look, at the same time, I understand his frustrations, and it must be difficult when people are writing stuff about you all the time. So yeah, tough one tomorrow. Brentford, unbeaten at home this season. They've won 6 out of 7, haven't drawn the other. They scored 22 goals in the league, more than any other side. So actually, on paper, it's as hard an away game as you get. But these are the games that Newcastle need to win, and they have been in previous seasons. They've gone down there and played well and won there. They need to take that into tomorrow to kind of show that they are turning, if not quite turned the corner just yet. So still a high from the other night. Eddie said that the players are on a very big come down after that. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Hopefully they're able to just bounce into it. But you would like to think Isak, the way he played the other night, if he can carry on that form, Bruno as well. I really like Tonali in the 6 with Bruno further forward, something we've been asking about for weeks now. I really think with these three, including Gordon, back to top form, Newcastle should be swatting teams like Brentford aside. They've lost Ivan Toney. They don't have the same level of player, or don't have the same level of ability without him in the team. Newcastle need to be going down there. Forget about Brentford's great home record. Newcastle will be the toughest team they've played this season if they turn up, and they need to try and put a string of results together, because if you beat Brentford, you beat Leicester and you beat Ipswich, which you should be getting 9 points from, and beat Brentford in the Cup, those 4 games going into Christmas, suddenly the season starts looking a whole lot different. Anyway, guys, that's my view from the training ground. Any comments, leave them below, and I'll hopefully engage with you guys a bit later on. All right, guys, see you in the next one. Take care.